Sweat stung my eyes as I lunged across the porch, my voice raw with panic, shouting, "Bill, back off, leave us alone." But he didn't stop, his boots thudding closer, his Confederate cap pulled low over a face twisted with hate. Two shadows loomed behind him. Jared, big and mean, cracking his knuckles, and another guy, twitchy, hands stuffed deep in his pockets. They'd crossed the street again, this time at night, their silhouettes sharp against the flickering streetlights, coming straight for my family. My heart slammed against my ribs, fear and fury tangling in my chest as Angela clutched Ava behind me, her breath quick and shallow. Bill's smirk gleamed ugly in the dark. "I told you this ain't your place." I squared up, ready to fight if it came to that, when Ava's voice cut through, small but fierce. "You're just scared. Stop being mean." Bill froze, his eyes flickering, and for a split second I saw something crack in him, doubt maybe or shame, before Jared growled, "Let's go, man!" And they slunk off into the shadows, leaving my porch trembling under the weight of what almost was. My name's Terrence Johnson. I'm 42, a construction engineer with hands rough from steel and a back broad from years of hauling beams. I grew up in a cramped apartment 2 towns over, raised by a single mom who scrubbed floors to keep me fed. Now I've got Angela, my wife, a third-grade teacher with a heart softer than her smile, and Ava, our 8-year-old daughter, sharp as a tack and braver than I'll ever be. We moved into this tidy suburb 2 years ago. White fences, green lawns, a place I thought we could call home. I've got a crew downtown, a pickup in the driveway, and a grill I fire up every chance I get. It's a good life, one I've fought for, but it's never been easy. Not with guys like Bill Thompson glaring from across the street, waiting for a chance to remind me I don't belong. It started earlier that day, a Saturday in July, the sun hanging heavy and hot over our backyard. I was at the grill, flipping burgers, the smoky char curling up into the air. Angela hummed nearby, setting out lemonade in a chipped pitcher, her yellow sundress catching the light. Ava raced around with her cousin Marcus, water gun in hand, her braids swinging wild as she laughed. High and free, the sound of summer itself. We'd called over some folks, my sister Tasha and her kids, a few neighbors who'd become friends. The sprinklers sprayed diamonds across the grass, kids shrieked and slid, and the old speaker on the porch crooned Marvin Gaye. I plated a burger, grinning as Ava darted up, her eyes big. "Daddy, just ketchup." I squirted a line across her patty, handing it over. "There you go, princess," Angela chuckled, passing me a bun. "She's going to be 90% ketchup by next year." That's when I felt it. A prickle on my neck, like someone was watching too close. I glanced up, and there was Bill, rocking slow on his porch across the street, his beard glinting in the sun. He'd been there since we moved in, mid-60s, gray stubble, eyes hard as nails. I'd seen him mutter to himself, toss glares my way when I mowed the lawn, but he'd never crossed the line. Not till now. His stare burned hotter today, his lips curling as he watched Ava chase Marcus. I shook it off, turned back to the grill, but the air felt tighter, like a storm brewing quiet. Then it hit. "You people think you can just do whatever you want, huh?" His voice sliced through the yard, rough and loud, shattering the hum of the afternoon. I spun around. Bill stood at the edge of our grass, boots planted, fists clenched, that damn Confederate cap shoved on his head. His face was red, veins bulging, and his eyes darted over us like we were thieves caught mid-heist. The laughter died fast, Marcus dropping his water gun, Tasha pulling her kids close. Angela froze mid-pour, lemonade sloshing over the table. I stepped forward, my gut twisting, but I kept my tone level. "Bill, what's your problem?" He jabbed a finger at me, his sneer sharp. "You're my problem, this cookout, acting like you own this street. You don't belong here, never did." My chest tightened, anger flaring hot under my ribs. I've heard this before. Sideways looks on job sites, cold shoulders at gas stations. But this was different. This was my yard, my family. "We live here, Bill," I said, voice hard now. "We're not bothering you. Go back home." Angela moved beside me, her hand brushing my arm, tense but steady. "We're just having a barbecue," she said, calm as she could. "No need for this." Bill spat on the grass, his eyes wild. No need, your noise, your damn laughing. It's everywhere. This neighborhood was better before you showed up. I saw Ava out the corner of my eye, burger still in hand, frowning as Marcus whispered something to her. My throat burned. She shouldn't have to hear this. Not at 8, not ever. Tara, let's get him out, Angela murmured, her grip tightening. I nodded, ready to push back, when Ava stepped up, her little voice clear as a bell. Why are you so mad, mister? Bill's head snapped toward her, his face hardening. What? He barked. She didn't flinch, just looked up at him, ketchup smeared on her chin. You're yelling at us. Daddy says mean people are scared. Are you scared of us? The yard went dead quiet, every breath held tight. Bill's mouth twitched, his venom faltering. Scared? He rasped, but it wobbled, unsure. I ain't scared. You don't know nothing, kid. Ava tilted her head, steady as stone. Mommy says love beats hate. We're not hurting you. Why can't we all live here? I watched Bill's hands shake, his red face flickering. Anger, yeah, but something else too. Like her words had punched a hole in him. He couldn't answer, just stood there, mouth half open, till he muttered, This place used to be better, and turned, stomping back across the street. I exhaled slow, my knees weak with relief, but my eyes stayed locked on his door as it slammed shut. Angela knelt, pulling Ava into a hug. You're so brave, baby, she whispered, voice shaky with pride. I squeezed Ava's shoulder, my chest swelling. You did good, princess. Tasha's husband, Ray, whistled low. Damn, she shut him down cold. Lila Carter, our neighbor 2 doors over, slipped her phone out, smirking. Caught it all, going up tonight. I didn't know what that'd spark, but I felt the shift. Bill's hate had hit a wall, and Ava built it. We tried to shake it off, turned the music louder, passed out Angela's peach cobbler, but the air stayed heavy, like smoke you can't clear. Ava sat on the swing later, quieter than usual, rocking slow. I knelt beside her, grass cool under my knees. You okay, kiddo? She nodded, staring at the clouds. Yeah. But why's he mad at us, Daddy? We didn't do anything. My gut twisted. How do you explain this to a kid? Some folks don't like what's different, I said slow. He's wrong, not us. You stood up to him. That's big. She smiled faint, but her eyes were too old, too knowing. Angela joined us, her face tight. He's not done, Tare, I feel it. I nodded, that same dread gnawing at me. We'll be ready, I said, hoping it was true. Night crept in and I couldn't settle. I stood outside the kitchen window, coffee cold in my hand, staring at Bill's house. His porch light flicked on, then off. Once, twice, like a code. My stomach dropped. Something was coming. I heard boots then, too many, crunching up the street. Angela, I called soft, moving to the door. She rushed over, Ava behind her, sleepy in her pajamas. I cracked the door. Bill was back, with 2 guys. Jared, big and bald, tattoos snaking up his neck, grinned like a wolf. The other, lean and twitchy, kept his hands buried in his pockets. Bill's smirk was sharper now, fueled by backup. Told you, this ain't your place. Time you learned. My heart pounded, fear spiking hot through my veins. But I stepped onto the porch, voice steady. Go home, Bill. We're not doing this. Jared laughed, low and mean. You don't tell us shit, boy. Angela grabbed my arm, whispering, tear the kids. But Ava pushed past, her voice ringing out. Stop it. She stood there, hands on hips, glaring up at Bill. You're scared, and you're being mean for no reason. Bill flinched, caught off guard again. What? We're not scary, she cut in, fierce now. You're mad because you don't get us. Daddy says this is a free country. Why can't you let us be? Silence slammed down hard. Bill's face twisted, his bravado cracking. Jared shifted, muttering, Bill, let's go. This ain't worth it. Lights popped on down the block. Neighbors watching, phones up. Lila's voice sliced through, sharp. Keep talking, Bill. World's seeing this. Bill's eyes darted, sweat beading on his brow. He wasn't ready. Ava's truth, the cameras, the crowd. He snarled something under his breath, then turned, his crew trailing him into the dark. I pulled Ava close, my chest tight with awe and terror. You're incredible, I whispered, voice breaking. Angela hugged us both, tears streaking her cheeks. She stopped them again. I nodded, but my nerves buzzed. Bill was down, not out. Morning hit slow, gray light creeping through the blinds. I hadn't slept, just sat at the table, scrolling my phone. Lila's video was everywhere, 2 million views, climbing fast. KKK clown owned by 8-year-old trended hard. Comments a mess of cheers and venom. A knock jolted me. Pastor Dan Brooks, his gray hair wild, eyes heavy. Tear Angela, saw it online. Bill's been rotting here too long. I should have acted sooner. He rubbed his face, voice low. Knew him at the mill years back. He wasn't always this. Plant closed, he broke, found hate instead of hope. I nodded uneasy. He's got friends now, Dan. Bad ones. He sighed deep. Church'll stand with you. This stops here. By noon, the porch was crowded. Lila with coffee, Dan with a plan, neighbors with trays of food and quiet apologies. Cops are sniffing around Bill now, Lila said fierce. Video's got traction. Meeting set for tomorrow. He's done. Ava bounced in, eyes lighting up at the pastries. Breakfast with everybody. I scooped her up, laughing despite the wait. Looks like it, princess. The day turned warm, loud. Kids playing, folks plotting. Angela leaned into me later, her voice soft. Think it's over? No, I said honest, but it's a start. Ava lit the fire. We're burning it down now. She smiled, resting against me. She's our fire. The afternoon sun hung low, painting the yard gold as Ava chased a butterfly near the fence, her laughter cutting through the hum of the street, waking back up. Angela leaned into me on the porch steps, her head heavy against my shoulder, her breath slow and warm. Think it's over? She asked again, softer this time, like she was scared to hear the answer twice. I stared across at Bill's house, dark, quiet, blinds shut tight, and felt that same gnaw in my gut I'd carried all night. No, I said, my voice low but steady. Not yet. Guys like Bill don't quit. They fester. But it's a start. Ava lit a match, and now we've got a fire going. She smiled faint, her fingers curling into mine. She's our fire, Ter. Always has been. I squeezed her hand back, my chest tight with a mix of pride and worry. Pride for Ava, worry for what might come next. Inside, the kitchen table was still cluttered with trays. Muffins from Dan, cookies from Lila, a casserole some lady down the block dropped off with a nervous smile. The neighbors had come and gone all morning, their voices overlapping with apologies and promises. We're with you, they'd said over and over, like saying it enough might erase the years they'd let Bill stew across the street. I appreciated it. Hell, it warmed me in a way I hadn't expected, but it didn't wipe the slate clean. I'd seen their curtains twitch too many times, felt their silence when Bill's glares turned sharp. Now Ava's words were trending, and suddenly they were all here, baking and preaching unity. Part of me wanted to believe it. Part of me wondered if it'd last. Lila swung by again around dusk, her laptop tucked under her arm, her dark eyes glinting with that fire she carried everywhere. 4 million views now, she said, plopping down on the porch swing, tapping open the video. Comments are a war zone, half calling Ava a hero, half spewing trash. Cops called me, want to talk to you tomorrow. Bill's name's in their files now. Old stuff, too. I leaned against the railing, arms crossed, feeling the weight settle deeper. Old stuff? She nodded, scrolling. Yeah, disturbances, bar fights, some clan rally bust from the 90s. He's been quiet here, but not clean. Video's got traction, national outlets sniffing around. Angela frowned, sitting beside her. National, like TV? Lila grinned, sharp. Yep, CNN, MSNBC. Someone's pitching Kid versus KKK for a segment. You cool with that? My stomach flipped, pride clashing with dread. Ava's 8, Lila. I don't want her face plastered everywhere for this. Angela nodded quick. She's brave, but she's still a kid. She doesn't need that kind of spotlight. Lila held up her hands, backing off. Fair, I can blur her out. Keep it on Bill and his goons. Point is, this ain't staying local. People are pissed and inspired. Look at this. Oh, she tilted the screen. Hashtags like #AvaTruth and #StopTheHate trending. Clips of Ava's voice looping online. You're just scared. Stop being mean. I watched, my throat tight, as strangers typed out, she's right, and this kid's changing the game. It hit me hard. My little girl, ketchup on her chin, was shaking something bigger than our backyard. Pastor Dan rolled up, then, his old Chevy rattling to a stop. He climbed out, tie loose, face drawn like he hadn't slept either. Tear, Angela, church board's behind you. Meetings tomorrow night, whole neighborhood's coming. We're calling Bill out, publicly. He paused, rubbing his neck. I owe you an apology, too. Worked with him at the mill decades back. Saw him slide into this, lost his job, his wife, drank himself bitter. I preached forgiveness, thought he'd turn around. Never pushed hard enough. His voice cracked, guilt heavy in it. I studied him, feeling the ache in his words. You didn't make him hate, Dan, I said quiet. But yeah, should have pushed. He nodded slow, eyes on the ground. Won't happen again. We're organizing, flyers, petitions. He's not welcome here no more. Night fell, and I couldn't sit still. I paced the living room, Iva sprawled on the couch with a coloring book, humming to herself like nothing had happened. Angela watched me from the armchair, her face tight. You're wired, Tare. Talk to me. I stopped, hands on my hips, staring at Bill's dark windows across around the street. He's not done, Ang. Him and Jared, they're planning something. I feel it. She stood, crossing to me, her hands gentle on my arms. We've got people now, Lila, Dan, the neighbors. We're not alone. I sighed, pulling her close, her warmth steadying me. I know. Just hate that Ava's in this. Hate that she had to be the one to stop him. Angela leaned back, her eyes fierce. She chose to, Tara. She's stronger than we know because of us. Next morning, the street buzzed, cars lining the block, folks gathering early for the meeting. I stood on the porch, coffee bitter in my mouth, watching Lila set up a camera tripod near the curb. Live streaming it, she called over, grinning. World's watching again. Dan hustled by, clipboard in hand, rallying neighbors. Some I knew, some I'd only seen in passing. Ava bounced out, her braids swinging, eyes wide at the crowd. Daddy, what's happening? I knelt, forcing a smile. Folks are standing up, Princess. Like you did. She beamed, proud, but I felt the twist in my gut. She shouldn't have to carry this. The meeting kicked off at dusk, folding chairs scattered across Dan's front yard, a mic crackling as he took the makeshift stage. We're here to say enough, he started, voice firm. Bill Thompson's terrorized this street too long. Last night proved it. We stand with the Johnsons. Murmurs rippled, agreement, some nerves. Lila's camera rolled, her phone pinging with live comments. Then I saw him, Bill, lurking at the edge, Jared beside him, both glaring. My pulse kicked up, but I stayed still, Angela's hand tight in mine. Dan kept going. We've got evidence. Videos, records, cops are involved. Bill, you're done here. The crowd shifted, eyes turning, and Bill stepped forward, his voice rough. You can't run me out. This is my home. Ava tugged free from Angela, marching up before I could grab her. You're wrong, she said loud, staring him down. This is everybody's home. You don't get to scare us. Bill's face twitched, anger flaring, but the crowd erupted. Claps, shouts, she's right. Jared grabbed Bill's arm, muttering, let's go. But Bill yanked free, spitting, you'll regret this. He stormed off, Jared trailing, and I felt the air shift. Relief, yeah, but tension too. They weren't gone for good. Later, back home, Ava curled up on my lap, sleepy. Did I do good, Daddy? I kissed her forehead, voice thick. You did amazing, Princess. Angela sat beside us, her eyes soft. She's changing things, Tara, more than we know. I nodded, feeling it deep. Ava's courage wasn't just hers anymore. It was ours, the streets, the world's. Bill's hate was loud, but her truth cut through, and now we had a fight worth winning. Here's what I've learned. Hate's a fire, but courage, especially a kid's, can burn it out. Ava didn't just stop Bill that night. She lit up something bigger, showed us all what standing up looks like. Me, Angela, Dan, Lila, the neighbors. We're in this now, building a wall against that poison, brick by brick. It's not over. Bill's still out there, simmering, but we're not backing down. One barbecue turned into a battle and we're winning it together. So what do you think? Ever seen a kid shut hate down? Or maybe you've stared it in the face yourself? Drop your stories in the comments. I want to hear them. If this hit you, hit subscribe, share it with your people. This channel's about real fights, real heart. Let's keep it rolling. Stick with me. We've got more to tell.